say to thee, have mercy, have mercy.
Hey, this is The Good, the Bad, and the Wrestling, a Tony James podcast. You can reach us on YouTube. You can reach us on Facebook, and you can get to us on Spotify. Click follow, click subscribe, click like, leave a comment. The Good, the Bad, and the Wrestling, a Tony James podcast. Jose Sanchez boots since 1963. Are you looking for a durable boot? I'm telling you, these boots actually will outlast Outlaw Tony James. That's why I have multiple pairs. That's why I wear them everywhere I go. I'm telling you, the quality of the boot, the hand-stitched leather, everything about these boots say history, say Texas, and say quality. I'm talking about Jose Sanchez boots since 1963. Make sure you hit up my buddy Demetrio. Tell him Outlaw Tony James sent you, and make sure you check out Jose Sanchez boots. And while you're at it, don't forget Three Brothers RC, the only place to go for RC products, parts, and quality. That's Three Brothers RC. And finally, Southpaw Boxing Club, run, owned, and maintained by Eric Asher. They're going to get you right, they're going to set you right, and they have your interest, your best interest, and your health in mind. That's Southpaw Boxing Club. Welcome to The Good, the Bad, and the Wrestling, a Tony James podcast. I am Tony James, and these are the bells of justice. They're ringing this morning. Hey, I want to thank everybody for tuning in and coming to the podcast. Remember, if you're on Spotify, please click follow, and if you're on YouTube, please click subscribe. And as always, go to Outlaw Tony James at Facebook and follow along. We've been talking recently in a lot of episodes, who is the best, the Mount Rushmore of wrestling, all of the goodies that we like to talk about and argue about on who we think is the best, the four top, whatever it may be. So today, I got some surprises for you. I got a couple really cool videos. We're going to watch the JT Hogg Dusty Rhodes tag team match that JT was talking about in his podcast. And then I'm also going to post the woo-off with Jay Lethal and Ric Flair. We were talking about that some time ago, about events, positive events in wrestling from 2010 to present day. So we're going to be watching that. I'm going to be posting that at the end of this podcast. But before we get to that, I just want to drop some knowledge on you today. I'm not going to give you who I think are the top four best ever. But the one thing that we did not talk about yet is title reigns and length of title reigns. And if that is something that should be held into consideration when talking about who is the best. Who is the champ? Of course, if the belt's on the champ, you would assume that the company's putting all the load on that champion to carry the company. And, of course, the length of that reign and how many reigns that champion does have or has had. Also, I was checking out an interview with Bubba Ray Dudley recently when he was talking about is Cody Rhodes the guy to carry the company from Roman Reigns? Is Roman Reigns still the guy? And he was talking about in the past how, in the two examples he gave was Stone Cold Steve Austin and Hulk Hogan, about you always went to see them retain the title rather than chase the title. And so the question is Roman Reigns the type of champion that you want to see get beat? Is Cody Rhodes the type of guy that you want to see chase? Of course, at the time of this recording, it's WrestleMania weekend. So by the time you hear this, you will probably have the outcome of that. But needless to say, it got me thinking. And so I went into a deep dive. I thought I would look at some of the Big Four, or at least at the time it was called the Big Four, the WWF/WWE, the AWA, the WCW, and of course the NWA. And so I cross-referenced some information, of course by your free source, Wikipedia, Also WrestlingTitles.com and ProWrestlingFandom.com, and they all seem to be pretty consistent with each other. Of course, WWE has its own method of madness when it comes to title reigns and who held what belt. But I wanted to share with you, if I could, reigns, title reigns and length of title reigns, something I'd like to talk about, and then just what do you think it might be? So just imagine yourself sitting down in the Lariato studios with Tony James talking about combined title reigns. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole list. We're going to start off with the AWA. We're not going to go through the whole list, but I'm going to at least pick the top 3, and then I'm going to pick and choose certain guys just to kind of give you an idea of how long they had the title. So, of course, the AWA, Vern Gagne, ranked number 1. He had a total of 10 title reigns, the combination of 4,677 days. When you go through the history of that, Vern Gagne held the belt, of course, 10 times. Even up till the end, he fought in his last match against Nick Bockwinkel. Everybody knew it was his retirement match, but he won anyway, and then he relinquished the title, and Nick Bockwinkel got it. So it just kind of makes you wonder. And that's number 2 in the AWA rankings. Nick Bockwinkel ranks number 2. He had 4 title reigns, and his total combined days were 2,990. And then number 3, Mad Dog Vachon held the belt 5 times, and then he only held it for a total of 776 days. Now, at this time, I don't know exactly, and I can get back to you on this one, which was Bockwinkel's longest reign, but I just wanted to give you an idea there. Now, when you go through the history, then you're thinking of the AWA. That's some really good champions. Stan Hansen held the title once for 181. Jerry Lawler held it for 256 days with 1 title reign. Kurt Hennig, his 1 title reign was 373 days. And, of course, Rick Martel, he held the title 1 time for 595 days. So, and I believe right there at the end, Mr. Saito, 57 days before they finally just ended the whole thing. Now, the neat thing about the AWA, and I'll give him props for this, Hulk Hogan actually held the title for 6 days. It was a match with Nick Bockwinkel. They both used a foreign object. The referee deemed it Hulk Hogan's win and awarded him the title formally. And then, of course, 6 days later, Stanley Blackburn and Wally Carbo decided to give the belt back to Nick Bockwinkel. But they did, in fact, call Hulk Hogan champ for 6 days. The belt itself was deactivated January 12th, 1991. The championship was deactivated when AWA closed on that very day. I believe Larry Zbyszko was the last reigning champion. So there you go, the AWA, your top 3, Vern Gagne, Nick Bockwinkel, Mad Dog Vachon, ranging anywhere from 4 title reigns to 10. And then, of course, Vern Gagne with 4,677 days of being champ. Moving on to the NWA. Now, this is going to be an interesting one because, of course, the NWA has a long history of championships and champions. And so let's get on this one and see what this looks like. Number 1, Lou Thesz held the title 3 times for 3,749 days. Ric Flair at number 2 with 9 title reigns as the NWA, because I know he's a 16-time champion, but he had 9 of those with the NWA for 3,119 days. And then number 3, coming in at number 3 with 7 title reigns, Harley Race, and he held the belt for a combination of 1,798 days. Now, sprinkled throughout this, because you have to remember, once the NWA broke off or I shouldn't say broke off, when they did not recognize Jim Crockett Promotions as the person or company that kind of promoted the NWA title, and they went to the WCW. They actually stayed in the NWA stayed relevant and active through the ECW and through some other promotions. I believe TNA as well, because it was the NWA TNA promotion there for a while. And now it's back on course with its own NWA, along with their shows, the Power Hour and such. I believe you can find them on Fight TV with some of their, what we would, old school people would call pay-per-views. Buddy Rogers ranks 12th with one title reign at 573 days. Then you have Dory Funk Jr. His one title reign lasted 1,563. People always talk about Jack Briscoe. He held it twice for 866 days. Nick Aldis, there's a more recent wrestler. He ranks in at number 6 with 2 title reigns at 1,309. He won the belt. He lost it to Cody Rhodes, and then it was a brief loss, and then he picked it back up from Cody here past 2-3 years ago, I believe it was. Don't quote me on that. Of course, you probably know better than I. And going back down through, of course, Terry Funk held it one time for 424 days. One gentleman that I thought at the time when the NWA, everyone kind of thought it was not as relevant, Jax Dane, if you get to see some of his stuff, he held it one time for 419 days. He defended it in Japan a lot. I really liked Jax Dane. Sting held it twice for 216. Let's see here. Dusty Rhodes, 3-time champ, but only 107 days. Ricky Steamboat's reign was 76 days. Ron Garvin's was 62. I believe Barry Windham is in that. Yeah, Windham held it for 147 days. And then, of course, the great Muta who has just been inducted into the Hall of Fame. I believe the great Muta is the gentleman that Barry Windham beat for the title. And yes, and Muta held it for 48 days, and then Barry Windham beat him. So that kind of gives you an idea. So if the AWA is saying Vern Gagne, Nick Bockwinkel, and Mad Dog Vachon are their top 3, the NWA is looking at Lou Thez, Ric Flair, and Harley Race. Of course, all 3 of those gentlemen are in the thousands, and Mad Dog Vachon for the AWA is the only one that was under 1,000 days total combination. Now, I know once again you're wondering, well, out of those, what was their longest title reign? We can get to that, but right now I just want to give everybody an idea of what it looks like when it comes to top all-time title reign / combination of days. We're going to get into the WCW and the WWF / WWE, and we could possibly say the WWWF as well, thrown in on that. But before we do, we're going to take a quick break and get into our sponsors. Once again, this is The Good, the Bad, and the Wrestling, a Tony James podcast. Today's podcast is brought to you by Three Brothers RC. They are the only place to go for RC products. Also, Southpaw Boxing Club. It's time. Right now is your time to get started on your health and fitness, and Southpaw Boxing Club is the place to go for that. And finally, Jose Sanchez Boots. They've been in business since 1963. They are the end-all, be-all when it comes to boots. We want to thank all 3 sponsors here at The Good, the Bad, and the Wrestling, a Tony James podcast, and we ask that you reach out to them. That is Three Brothers RC, Southpaw Boxing Club, and Jose Sanchez Boots. Hey, we are back here at The Good, the Bad, and the Wrestling, a Tony James podcast. We had just talked about the AWA and the NWA and who their top 3 title holders were in their history of the title reigns, whether it be the combination of for total days and their actual number of title reigns. So I'd like to move on now to WCW. Of course, we know that late 80s, early 90s, they split. Jim Crockett Promotions was sold. NWA stepped out. WCW stepped in. For a brief period of time, Ric Flair was considered the international champion. They took the NWA moniker off. It was World Championship Wrestling. And there's only certain titles that are recognized for that will lead you to the situation with Ric Flair's 16-time not 17, because even though, and I'm going to get to it here, you'll see hopefully how the math works out. And of course, you can math check me if you'd like. But nonetheless, let's get to it, WCW. According to WCW, in the three areas I've researched, Hulk Hogan / Hollywood Hogan had 6 title reigns as WC champion with a combination days of 1,177. And that is recognized by the WWE because, of course, they own the properties of WCW. Ric Flair, officially, unofficially, 8 title reigns. A combination of 501 days. The WWE recognizes 505. With that being said, in WCW, Ric Flair was recognized as 8-time champion, while WWE does not recognize Flair's 3rd reign. They consider it a continuation of his 2nd reign. And his 1st reign, they consider it a continuation of his 7th reign. And thus only recognizing him as a 6-time champion. And then, of course, winning the title in the WWE puts him at 16. So there you go. And then the number 3 WCW combined reign champion, Big Van Vader, held the title 3 times for 377 days. So you're probably going, wait a second. You got Kevin Nash, Randy Savage, Bret Hart, Dallas Page, The Rock, because, once the WWF took over, WWE, Kurt Angle, all those. Sting, right? Well, Sting held it for 6 times, but only a total of 250 days. Booker T held it a 5-time for 253. Goldberg's 1 reign was 174 days. Chris Jericho, it says here he held it twice for 15. I don't know about that. Scott Steiner held it 1 day for 120. Ron Simmons, his title reign was 150 days. Randy Savage held it 4 times for only 53 days. That's when the belt started popping around a lot. So your top 3 WCW was Hollywood / Hulk Hogan, 6 title reigns for 1,177. Ric Flair, 8 times, even though the WWE only considers 6 of those, for 505 days. And then Big Van Vader, 3 title reigns for 377 days. Once again, we'll be looking into the longest reigns, not to be confused with Roman Reigns. And speaking of Roman Reigns, we're going to jump right into the WWF/WWF/WWE. Of course, everybody knows, I don't have to tell you this, everybody knows who number 1 is. And that's Bruno Sammartino. He had 2 title reigns for 4,040 days. I know that when you compare that to Mr. Gagne, Mr. Gagne had more. It took him 10 reigns to get 4,677 days. It took Bruno Sammartino 2 reigns to reach 4,040 days. And, of course, Bruno, I believe, had a 7-year reign and then another 5-year reign maybe, something like that. We'll look into that. I've got the notes, but that's huge. Hulk Hogan had 6 title reigns for the WWF/WWE. The actual time was 2,185. WWE recognizes 2,188. And then number 3, Bob Backlund had 2 title reigns for 2,121. They're recognizing 2,138. Now, I know there is a discrepancy with Antonio Inoki, where Antonio Inoki defeated Bob Backlund. And Bob Backlund had to win that back, I believe, 6 days later in Japan, and WWE does not recognize that title reign. Ted DiBiase held his title reign for 8 days, actually defended the title, I believe, once, but they do not recognize Ted DiBiase either. And then, of course, Andre the Giant is recognized for his 1 day, 1-time title reign. So that's interesting. Of course, Roman Reigns, now I know we're going on 3 years, but now we're getting into Universal title, Raw title, SmackDown title, and all that. Roman Reigns is probably in that Pedro Morales area. Pedro's number 5 with one title reign of 1,027. John Cena has 13 title reigns with 1,254. Bret Hart held the belt 5 times for 654 days. Stone Cold 6 times for 529. Randy Savage, 2 title reigns for 520. CM Punk, 2 title reigns for 462. The Rock had 8 title reigns for 378. One of my favorites, Superstar Billy Graham, held it for 296. The Warrior held it for 293. Pardon me. The Undertaker, 4 times for 238. I'm just throwing some names out here for you. Ric Flair, 2 times for 118. That's where his 16 comes in, because once again, WWE does not recognize 2 of his title reigns back in WCW, and I believe one of them, of course, is that international title that they gave him rather than the actual WCW and or NWA. So there you go. Current, you got the Iron Sheik. Of course, he held it for 28 days. Buddy Rogers, the WWE only recognizes 22 days for him before San Martino beat him. So that, when you look at some of those names, and Brock Lesnar, 7 reigns for 828 days, and you're looking at who's the best and who's doing what. If you go by title reigns, that's crazy. When you think about who held the belt. And so, you got AWA with Vern Gagne, Nick Bockwinkel, Mad Dog Vachon. I don't know if we would even talk about Mad Dog Vachon as the top. WCW, Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, Big Van Vader. The NWA, Lou Thez, Ric Flair, Harley Race. And then, of course, the WWE, WWF/WWF, San Martino, Hogan, and Backlund. So, Hogan and Flair consistently in there. You can't argue Thez. You can't argue San Martino. I think the 2 oddballs are probably Vachon and Vader. Now, the question then becomes, were they draws, right? We know, and of course this is my personal opinion, and you've probably heard me say this before, Vern Gagne, of course, booked himself in all those nice title reigns. So, you kind of wonder, did he really draw? Back in the day, people loved him, but does he really need to be on the list? Because, like I said, he always booked himself as champ. When you go down and through and you look at Vern Gagne's title reigns, he held it for 154 days. His second title reign, his first title reign was 329. His third was 322. His fourth was for 7. Then he held it for 100, then 140, then 157. Let's see here. Then 538, his 8th title reign. And then his 9th title reign, back in 1968, he held it for 2,625 days. Nick Bockwinkel beat him and held it for 1,714. And then on July 18th, 1980, Vern Gagne's 10th title reign, Gagne retired from active wrestling while still the champ. He held it for 305 days. Nick Bockwinkel then was awarded the title when the championship was retired from Gagne and just handed to Nick Bockwinkel. Bockwinkel held that for 467 days until Hulk Hogan on April 18th, 1982 defeated him, both parties using a foreign object during the match, and is declared by the referee as champion. 6 days later, Bockwinkel was awarded the belt back. And then Bockwinkel went on to hold it for 500 after he beat Otto Wanz for it. He went on to hold it for 500 and some days. So that kind of gives you an idea in the AWA. So you're talking 2,100 days was his longest title reign. Bockwinkel's was 1,700. Mad Dog Vachon, I think he was 300-400 days, maybe a little longer, but wasn't in the In fact, Mad Dog, once again, just checking, he had 5 title reigns for 776 days, so he never reached that pinnacle. In WCW, Hogan was at the top with 1,700 plus days as champion. Looking at who held the belt and for how long, Van Vader's longest was 285. I believe he held the belt 3 times, and that was his longest. Flair basically averaged around 100 days there for a while when he held it. Hogan's first reign was 469 days. His second reign was 359 days, and I believe that's what led up to Sting defeating him. Of course, we know the belt was held up. And then, or excuse me, yeah. Lex Luger beat him, and then Hogan won it back. And then, of course, Hogan dropped it later to Sting, who only held it for 11 days before they held that up. So those are your 2 biggest WCW reigns in the 400s, 300s by Hollywood and / Hulk Hogan. So a year. You're looking at a year or so when it comes to that. So, right, the days of yore where your champion held it for a long time makes sense now that everybody's making a big what to do about Roman Reigns holding the title for three years. Not the combination of the title, but I believe the Universal title. And then, of course, we've got the NWA. Before it got all sporadic with all the different title holders. Lou Thez, 2,300 days was his first title reign. His second title reign was 244. Let's see here. Buddy Rogers held it. He, interesting, a lot of the older stuff doesn't get a lot of consistency when it comes to days held to what it's recognized. There's a large discrepancy. Bruno Sammartino on August 2nd, 1962, Bruno Sammartino defeated Buddy Rogers in Toronto but refused to accept the title because Rogers had wrestled with an injury. The NWA considered Rogers' reign to last until Thez. So Sammartino, and of course we all know they wanted him, and then that's when Vince McMahon decided to, not Junior, Vince McMahon broke off and created the WWF. Let's see here. Jack Briscoe, we had already talked about. Gene Kiniski had 1,131 reign. Lou Thez back to 1,079. So, back in the day, you had a lot of lengthy title holders. Ric Flair, September 17th, 1981, won it at a house show. Lou Thez was the referee. He held it for 631 days recognized. Then, of course, the Midnight Rider won it, but it was you can keep the title and take off your mask or relinquish the title, which they did. And it was given back to Ric Flair that very day, and he held it for 150 more days. I don't believe they recognize Carlos Colon when he beat Ric Flair. It was given 4 days later. He won it back. This was a fictional match. So basically, Carlos, the title change is not recognized by the NWA. Colon's WWC World Heavyweight Championship was also on the line. This was a fictional match. This title change is not recognized by the NWA when Ric Flair supposedly won it back. Same thing with the Victor Haveka match. That is not recognized as either. Pardon me. Race 167 days. Ric Flair in 84 for the Jim Crockett Promotions. Held it for 793 days. Of course, before Dusty Rhodes won it at the Great American Bash, held it for 14, and then Rick took it right back in St. Louis. I believe that is the 86. That's when the whole broken ankle boot angle, where he's wearing the white cowboy boot, they put him in, Ric Flair had him in the figure four, reached up on the second rope and was tweaking on it and got Dusty to submit. Rick had another 452-day reign. So as you can see, once again, after the old school kind of went down, Rick kind of held it down in that 400 to 600 title reign length, which is pretty good. And then he would drop it, and then he'd pick it back up. Now, of course, the big one, right? The WWF, WWF, WWE. Bruno Sammartino held his first title reign for 2,803 days. Pedro Morales then held it for 1,027 after beating Ivan Koloff. Ivan only had it for 21. Stasiak beat Pedro and held it for 9. Sammartino beat Stasiak and held it for another 1,237 days. And then finally, Superstar beats him and holds it for 296. Bob Backlund beats him, holds it for 2,135. On November 30th of 79 in Japan, loses to Inoki. Wins it. It's vacated on December 6th. Backlund wins it December 17th and holds it for 1,470, my bad. Sheik beats him for 28. Hogan then beats Sheik and holds it for 1,474 days. And then, of course, is the Andre DiBiase, back to Savage, winning it in a tournament. Hogan holds it for 364, drops it to Warrior. Hogan beats Slaughter, 248. It's vacated when the Undertaker beats Hogan. Hogan beats Undertaker, and then they vacate it. Ric Flair wins it and holds it for 77 days. Savage holds it for 149. Ric Flair wins it back, and then we have the Bret Hart era. Hogan actually in WrestleMania 9 held the belt for 70 days, which was interesting. Bret Hart, 248. Diesel held it for 358. Hey, now you're getting back up there. And then that's when it became a hot potato, and everybody and their brother held it. Whether it be for a few days or 50 days. Triple H is in there for 118. The Rock for 119, and it just kind of went back and forth again. And now you're back to the you're back to Roman Reigns. He's bringing it back. So he's holding the belt. And at this recording, once again, it is the Cody Rhodes match with Roman Reigns has not occurred yet. So by our next podcast, will Roman Reigns still be holding that title? I think in the first night, which has already gone by, so they mentioned like 945 days, I think, Roman Reigns has held on to the Universal title. So he's getting up there into Pedro Morales numbers. If he continues to hold it, I don't know if they're looking to try to break Hogan's record and put him in the top 3 where it goes. Sammartino, days-wise, Sammartino, Backlund, Hogan on single title reigns. Overall, though, Hogan's still number 2. The whole point of this was sharing with you is just to kind of to get you to think that you forget when some of these guys hold the title, they put the company on their shoulders for 118 days. That's a drop in the bucket when it comes to pay-per-views and storylines. So I just wanted to throw those numbers out there at you. I wanted to see what you thought of those. Once again, I want to get right into a couple really cool clips for you. The first one we're going to watch is the Woo-Off with Jay Lethal and Ric Flair. We do not own this material. We are sharing it with you. Pardon me. So we're going to watch the Woo-Off, which I think happened in TNA. And like I said in one of the episodes, we talked about positive things that happened in wrestling from 2010 to prior personal day, which is current day, pardon me. And I feel this is huge in the wrestling business. I think it put Jay Lethal on the map, if he wasn't already. And it's just very entertaining. It's a great promo. And then JT Hogg owns this footage. It's JT Hogg in a match. It's the end of the match with Dusty Rhodes where they get jumped and it turns into a tag match. So I'm going to leave you with those two. Have a great day. I just want to thank you for tuning in to the Good, the Bad, and the Wrestling of Tony James podcast. If you're following on Spotify, please hit follow. If you're on YouTube, please hit subscribe. Leave comments if you'd like. And as always, over on Facebook, you can find me at Outlaw Tony James. Hey, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. God is good, and we will see you at the matches.
Nature Boy's not going to be happy about this. Speaking of Jay Lethal, he's interrupted Ric Flair and his Fortune faction.
Woo! Did I hear that punk right there say anything about the Four Horsemen? The greatest group of men to ever grace God's green earth. I didn't hear that, because as far as I'm concerned, it looks like the Horsemen were here, they took a dump in the ring, and they left that.
Wow. I'll come up there and I'll break your neck right now, punk.
I had the privilege to be on the road, up and down. Late nights, parties, kissing the girls, and making them cry. With the Horsemen, you guys, as far as I'm concerned, are no horsemen. That is disrespectful to me and this wrestling business. Mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all? Why ain't you, Nature Boy? Not that pisshead Jay Lethal. Hey! That's right.
Whoop.
Come on,
Duck
brothers.
tail.
Let's see what you got. You can let's see you rolling. Let's see what you got. Come on. Throw all your clothes away, Rick. Come on. Let's see what you got. You want to see something?
Yeah.
Let me show you something.
I want to see it. Well, Flair's got one shoe on,
You
by the way.
want to see it?
Yeah.
You want to see it?
Yeah.
Watch this.
He is driving Flair nuts, man.
Right there is the greatest thing you've ever seen.
You can't be me. You can't do me. And I'm cutting you off right now.
You're cutting me
You're cut
off.
off, yeah.
You don't cut me off.
Woo!
Hey, don't you start that with me.
Woo! Woo!
Don't you be upset with
Limousine
me.
riding, jet flying, kiss stealing, wheeling dealing, son of a gun that could kiss any woman right here, even that fat one, and make her cry.
Big man, don't get me wrong. Don't you be upset because they tore Old Space Mountain down. Don't be upset. But hey, because of Slick Rick,
oldest ride, longest line. Woo! Woo!
well, Rick, thanks to me, Space Mountain,
See what you got, man. Let's see what you got.
There's the other shoe drop.
you know what, Tibet?
This is insane.
You want
Come on,
to see
bring it.
something? You know what?
Woo!
Come to the ring right now.
Woo! Woo!
It's the damnedest thing I've ever
You
seen.
got nothing.
Limousine riding, Rolex wearing, kiss stealing, brother watch this, girls. Woo! You, honey. Woo! Yeah, you, honey.
That ride has been shut down long enough. Thanks
Shut
to me.
your mouth!
If you, Nate,
Listen here, Tinkerbell!
if that man can't even control
I'm not
Chelsea,
out here
he sure as hell can't control
being
me.
a cheap imitation of a legend, the greatest wrestler who ever lived!
Yes. Yes.
I am out here making a name for myself. So I suggest tonight you do the same thing. You take that ghetto booty, take it off a Space Mountain for 5 seconds and put it in this ring, because I'm going to kick it.
Big talk from a man who can't even control Chelsea. Hey, you know what Chelsea told me? You want to know what she told me? She said, hey, I tried the old guy. Young guys are much faster, stronger, hey, and there's 60-minute men that is.
Wow! 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 She told you don't know what 60 minutes is. You don't know what 60 is in the bedroom or the ring.
Desmond, you got it. You want me tonight?
Yeah.
You have got it.
We want you all night long.
Desmond, tonight you're going to find out that jumping on is a lot easier than jumping on.
Wow! That's my line.
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 That's my line. Come on. Come on.
We're stealing. That's Flair's line. He stole about 10 of Flair's lines. That's my line.
That's my line.
I'll prove it. I'll prove it. I'll
It's
prove
my
it.
line.
Let Desmond take care. I'm gonna.
And we get a clean break. We get a clean break. There's some mutual respect going on between these two men. Wait, what's this? GAY has stormed the ring. That's Shane Storm and Gorgeous JC in the ring, and they're beating down the champ, JT Hall, getting beat. Uh-oh! Bionic elbow by the Dream. And another one, and down goes Gorgeous JC. Gay hitting the ring and attacking JT Hall. What's the call? Is the match over? What is senior official Tony Wolf want to do with this? What's the call in the match? We were on our way to having a great title match, and Gay hits the ring and attacks JT Hogg. Uh-oh, looks like the Dream's calling for the mic. Let's hear what Dusty has to say.
I tell you what, you two dirty looking boys. I know here in West Virginia we're just kind of bend over by a stump, you know what I'm talking about?
Uh-oh.
You keep coming in here messing with my business. Why don't you two take me and him on in a tag match right here?
Ha-ha, I like the sound of that. Aside from the Deliverance reference there from the Dream. Yeah, I definitely like the sound of that. Are we going to have a tag match? The second match tonight for Gay. But they wanted to stick their nose in this business, and Dusty Rhodes says if they want to stick their nose in here, let's have a match then. We go from a title match to maybe a match. Before I was interrupted there, we go from a title match to a grudge tag match. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be JT Hogg and the American Dream against Gorgeous and Young. Gay, as they like to be called, Gorgeous and Young. We've already seen them tonight in their bid to win the NWA Tri-State Tag titles. That came up unsuccessful, but I guess they weren't finished. They wanted a little more of a spotlight here tonight. Hogg locks up with Gorgeous JC. JC goes down. I don't think he's going to win the test of strength with the big country boy, who, aside from winning the NWA Tri-State Heavyweight Championship, his other claim to fame was he was the hog riding champion
in Parkersburg in 1999. And that kind of tells you what kind of person that is. That's his other claim to fame. But the fans definitely seem to love Hogg, and they're definitely solidly behind the American Dream, the three-time former world champion. Locking up again. Again, JC goes down all the way outside the ropes. Claiming of a hair pull, referee Tony Wolf's got to ask. You and I know better than that. JT Hogg may be a lot of things. He may bend the rules just a little bit, but he's not going to cheat. He doesn't need to pull the hair in a lock up with JC. JC missed it that time off the ropes. Big clothesline. Folded gorgeous JC inside out. This could be quick for Gorgeous and Young. Hogg picks him up. Big body slam. Could be going for that big splash. No, want to pick him up again. The Tri-State champion control. Gut wrench suplex takes down JC. Here it comes. The tag into the Dream, the Bull of the Woods, if you will. Uh-oh. The Dream inviting Shane Storm in. I don't think Gorgeous JC wants any of the Dream. There we go. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he wanted Shane Storm. It makes the tag. Looks like Shane is going to have to step in there with the Dream. Shane saying, I don't want none of that. Hold on. Uh-oh. The Dream getting a little strut going. These Glenville State fans behind Dusty Rhodes. We go lock up the Dream, wrenching that arm. Dusty pulling back on the arm, putting all that pressure on there. The Dream asking the fans if they want to see the elbow. Shane doesn't. Uh-oh. Could we be seeing the bionic elbow from the Dream? There it is. Shane Storm goes down. The American Dream, Dusty Rhodes, known for that bionic elbow. Tags back in the Tri-State champ. Parkersburg zone. JT Hogg comes in the ring. Now he's saying an elbow. Gets a little coaching from Dusty, and he delivers an elbow. Dusty gonna check it to make sure there was nothing in his pad, his elbow pad there. In goes Storm. Here comes JT Hogg. It could be that big butt bump. Uh-oh. Shane Storm could be in the wrong place. Oh, goodness. Big stink face by JT Hogg. I'm not sure Shane may like that in other circumstances, but he surely doesn't like it coming from Hogg. Shane going for a choke there. Maybe that stink face was enough to motivate Shane to take advantage of this match. Tags in Gorgeous JC. Big kick by JC to that knee. They're going to that left knee of Hogg, trying to take one of the legs out from the big man. Maybe they think that's their way to victory here tonight. You can't fight very much if you can't stand. Hogg trying to get the fans behind him as JC pulling back, wrenching on that knee and the ankle of Hogg. Hogg gets out of it, looking to make the tag. No. Low blow by JC. I don't think senior official Tony Wolf really saw it. He was looking at him, but I don't think he saw it. Makes the tag. In comes Storm. Now, I tell you, this is one of the that Gorgeous and Young, or Gay, as they like to be called, Gorgeous and Young have over Hogg and Dusty Rhodes is they are a team. They've worked together. They've come very close on numerous occasions to winning the Tri-State Tag title. You see JC choking out the champ in the corner there. Like I said, they have come close numerous times to beating the Riders for those tag titles and almost won them in our opening bout tonight. So they're going to work real well as a tag team, but I'm not really sure how well JT Hogg and Dusty Rhodes are going to work together. Shane calling for a tag. In comes JC. Here comes one of those double team moves from Gorgeous and Young. Whip Hogg off the ropes. They missed the double clothesline. Big double clothesline by Hogg. Takes both men down. And Hogg makes the tag. In comes the American Dream. But did the referee see it? Did the referee? Yeah, the referee, I guess, referee Tony Wolf's going to allow the tag. He's lost all control of this. All four men in the ring. Gorgeous and Young back him in. The reversal. Gorgeous and Young go together. Big bionic elbow. Big splash on Gorgeous JC. Referee down. That's it. Big win for JT Hogg and the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Gorgeous and Young, 0 for 2 for the night.